Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or you're just happy to see me?
So, hello everybody. Welcome. We are back for the ones and twos this month, and I basically, selecting, like let's do X-Men 1 and 2 because we've kind of at least I have brought up those movies occasionally on other streams. So I'm we never actually talked about X-Men, the first two X-Men films, X-Men from 2000 and then X2 X-Men United. Which while I do have criticism, well, more like gripes, basically, for these particularly the first film, I actually overall enjoyed them.
Oh yeah,
like I said, at least my one criticism is more of a gripe for the first film, but this plot basically in the first movie is pretty much entirely original. There's the only movies within this trilogy that even remotely connect to anything in the comics are the next two, because then the second one, and we'll talk about this, is basically Logan Wolverine's origins. We find out exactly what happened to him, how he got the adamantium grafted to his skeleton. So you have that basically, which is kind of alluded to in here, and it's basically expanded upon in the second film. And then the Dark Phoenix storyline in The Last Stand, but I kind of pretend The Last Stand never existed.
Yeah.
So it's still in a way better than the Dark Phoenix movie that came out recently, but still, it's for me, it's of the the first three X-Men movies, there's only two.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there is only two. But you had basically the Sir Patrick Stewart, Sir Ian McKellen, in the roles. I think this is one of Hugh Jackman's first major roles, at least. Playing Wolverine. And you have Famke Janssen, James Marsden, who, by the way, I was told by Gravy D earlier that today's his birthday, so happy birthday, James Marsden. Halle Berry, and so forth. Basically, basically all around good casts of actors. And I will say this before I turn it over to Orange Hat to give his introduction. Rebecca Romijn, a way better Mystique than Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, fucking leagues better.
Yeah. I mean, it's that would be the last thing I say before I turn, give Lau Orange to do his intro, and then I'll say hello to the chat, and we'll get into basically not necessarily breaking down this movie, because again, we'd be here forever if we broke down everything. But going over the plot, basically the characterizations of each of the X-Men, and that's both sides basically, because you have the Brotherhood, and then you have Charles Xavier's X-Men. So, but anyway, Orange Hat, let everybody know where they can find you and all that fun stuff.
Well, you can find me at Alkali Lake. I mean, that's where I got these babies.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at OrangeHat2185 or Orange Hat Revived. That's my original. YouTube, simply Orange Hat. I go live almost every day of the week, except when I'm not on Mars streams. Friday is Orange Hat Uncensored late at night with Janet from Another Planet. Tuesdays are theme streams. Next week is Kaiju Profile on Kong and throughout the years. Sundays are the weekly recap. Me and Kate from Nerd with a Cigar and Ambassadorial Wing are going to be talking as well, Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones. Monday is Monday Night Rants, where if you have a rant, you can actually come onto the panel, rant about it, get some shit off your chest. I'm inviting you, Mara, because I know that you're going to have a lot of rants sometime about Rings of Power. So if you ever want to come on to the rant sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, with Mara twice a month, Wednesday nights, 8:30, her channel for ones and twos, and singles for on my Twitter or X on the blue check one, Orange Hat 2185 for singles, which tomorrow is the Wolverine Unleashed, the unrated version. So yeah.
Okay. And that's the Origins movie, right? Based Wolverine,
No,
I want to make
that's
sure I
not
watched the
the
right one. I want to make sure I watched the right
We
one.
are not watching Origins.
I want to make sure it's Wolverine Unleashed. All right, I gotta find that.
Yeah, the Wolverine or the Unleashed bit is meaning the unrated cut, essentially.
Yeah. But I gotta find that. But anyway, so, but yeah, just making sure because that's another movie that I pretend was not at all.
Yeah,
affecting
you
me.
can actually possibly rent it on YouTube.
Mhm.
So,
But
it's
anyway,
easy.
yes, we were here to talk like the first X-Men movie from 2000, basically. So, like ignoring ignoring everything about Bryan Singer. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not going to go into details about what all
We
he
know.
did.
We already
Like,
know.
like
so.
if you had all followed it when that news broke, you know what I'm talking about with Bryan Singer. But he did do a decent job with, in particular, the first two movies. He did kind of self-insert a little bit in the second movie, but at the same time, it's like overall, this was a decent story. Like, it's a nice, simple story to kind of introduce normies to the X-Men because not everyone grew up either reading the comics or watching the animated series. I know, like, I loved watching the animated series growing up, so I will like go into this a little bit, before this is my gripe for this film. I had it when I first watched the movies and I still have it, like rewatching it now, and that is I'm not a fan of their costumes.
Mm-mm.
I'm not a fan of their costumes. I don't hate them necessarily, but at the same time, it's like you're filming most of their fight scenes
At
in
night.
either little light or night.
Yeah.
They don't stand out.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's like I had the gripe, but like when I watched it initially, and like this is like still my gripe basically. It's like people were like people would like argue that sometimes like the costumes wouldn't necessarily translate from the comics to live action, and to an extent I can agree with that, but at the same time it's like even if you did a more muted tones for their outfits, it still would have worked. You still could have had the original Wolverine look, Cyclops look, and so forth. It still would have worked, and they would have stood out, especially because the final fight in this movie is at night.
Dear God, when I watched it digitally, the fucking lighting is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, where is everything? I can't even fucking see. But it's like, holy shit. But one of the things...
when you could see, the fights were good.
Yeah, right? I mean, I love the fight between Sabretooth and Wolverine.
Like an actual good fight, yeah. An actual good fight, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you see the fight, or you see that he is actually the wrestler guy who played him.
Tyler
Wolverine,
Mane.
or Sabretooth.
Tyler Mane.
He really put his... He really used his background in wrestling with his movements. It really does work.
Yeah. And I love the fact that his name is spelled like a lion's mane and he plays Sabretooth. I love like that. It's like how he spells his name.
Casting.
Like perfect casting.
And one of the things I did with some of the research folks, when Wolverine got his adamantium feed with the claws and whatnot, it essentially ruined his claw anatomy, because when he had his bone claws, his claws would always only ever come out with a fist. But with his metal claws, he could accidentally be like this, and his claws would come out through his hands like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or they would come out through his arms if he wasn't careful. So that's why he actually has the suit with the adamantium center or studs on his gauntlets, because they help center the claws when they come out. So it's like, holy shit, I never really realized that. But then again, I'm not a huge comic book person, but I saw this in a short and it's like, fuck, that's gotta hurt, man. Because they actually show in the comics his freaking claws coming out through his hands. Like, fuck. But I also like in this movie how he has full autonomy over each and individual claw, where he can bring them out separately, each with each claw, like he does after the fight. that the cage fight, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but before I share the movie basically, so let me make sure that okay, yeah, I have it up. Say hello to the chat. So from the top, I see Trace. I'm ready for the discussion. Ian McKellen's such a good Magneto. Yes, and he actually, according to the trivia, because he was not exactly officially cast necessarily for Gandalf and Lord of the Rings, because there was scheduling conflicts with the filming for this movie, and then the filming that was going to be starting for the Lord of the Rings. Bryan Singer actually worked with them to get the filming done for this movie as quickly as possible, so that way Ian McKellen could travel to New Zealand around January of 2000, so he could start filming his scenes for Lord of the Rings. Basically, otherwise we might have had a different Gandalf if that had not been the case. But Bryan Singer was able to work within the schedule to get that done, so Ian McKellen could actually travel to New Zealand, because of this was being filmed and released in 2000, which would have been about the time that he would have needed to start filming for Lord of the Rings. So,
yeah. And
Gravy D, hello. It's really me. Prove it. You're a dick. Yes, I did kind of get a kick out of that because of the.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, it's like it's me. Prove it. You're a dick.
You're a dick.
Okay.
It's it's kind of funny. I do kind of think Cyclops kind of gets the shaft in these movies because, yes, Wolverine's an awesome character, and in Storm and so forth, but Cyclops is actually a cool character as well. I don't know why it seems like movies can never seem to get him right. I like James Marsden's performance, but at the same time, I'm like, well, he's actually a good character in the comics and in the animated series, and he keeps getting kind of pushed to the background.
Yeah.
So
he's always been, or there's always that love triangle. Even in the X-Men show, there was the love triangle, but you also see that Cyclops can hold his own. I mean, they don't really do Cyclops justice in any of the movies that he is in, because
he gets pushed to the background. He doesn't get justice as a character, because he's actually a really good character.
Not only that, he's actually a lot more powerful than people give him credit or really know. And here's a piece of trivia for the people in the chat. True or false? His optic beams are energy based. So let's see how many of you guys are real X-Men fans.
Well, while we're waiting for the answers, I'm going to continue because I see Jaluk in the chat. We lurking, no worries. I see you because you're surprised.
Yeah.
Sorry. Conroy, and Patrick Stewart are the ones who stand out, somewhat tolerate the rest. Well, I think for what the biggest issue I had was Rogue, and we'll get into that when we talk about the characterizations. That and I'm not going to exactly fault Halle Berry, but she didn't exactly have an accent. The Storm is Kenyan.
She tried to do an accent, but it was a very light accent.
Yeah, it didn't exactly work. You don't really hear her accents, but that's kind of again a gripe.
Yeah.
So, but the Storm is Kenyan. She's not American, so we weren't that late. So yeah, agreed. I think Sabretooth should have been in X2 because he was a pretty cool character.
Didn't like Cyclops in The Last Stand. He was barely in The Last Stand.
Yeah, barely.
He was fucking atomized.
Yeah. Wolverine has the best line at the end of the movie. Magneto has no response because he knows that he is right. You're so full of shit. If you were really so righteous, it'd be you in that thing. Yeah, because basically Wolverine's calling him a coward. If you really believed what you believed, you'd be in that thing. But so. Let's see. Geek Archivist Pierce, hello. Mike Hill, what is up?
Soul Assassin, I want to slap you.
From this movie. Nice.
I want to slap you, Soul Assassin. You misquoted that line.
At some point, at some point, I am going to dye my hair dark again, or darker, because when I dye my hair, I go either a black, however you put it, black brown or brown black. Basically, it's one shade below black. Whenever I do, and I'd like to do it by hopefully next month, so it's I can kind of go more goth and makeup looks for Halloween for October month. So
There you go. Do the Rogue look.
that's another thing. God damn, where's her red hair? Anyway.
Right?
Anyway, again, Rogue is the weakest part of this movie.
Even though she's actually somewhat of the focus of it.
I know, that's the thing. It's kind of like when you had Keanu Reeves and Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm like, he's the focus, especially at the beginning of the movie, and I'm like, he's the weakest part. I'm like,
Right? Shit, man.
Yeah, anyway.
But, yeah. So many of you have guessed false, and you are correct. It's actually concussive. It's not energy, it's actual physical.
There's actually, according to the trivia, and we'll get into talking about the movie, like there's some trivia that I read that either for this movie or the next movie, there were origin scene shots for both Cyclops and Storm. And the origin scene for Cyclops would have been him basically destroying his school's bathroom, which did not ultimately happen because, again, they did not show up in the movies. However, that storyline was recycled for last Apocalypse. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
as well as a little bit of the Wolverine movie that we don't talk about.
Yeah. So, Mr. Tex, thank you for the super sticker. It's the 100. Thank you so much. Mr. Bentham, what is up? Good to see you. Yeah, Patrick Stewart. He was actually Bryan Singer's only choice. There were actors that lobbied for that role, but according to the trivia I read, Bryan Singer had basically dead set on Patrick Stewart for Professor X.
Oh, yeah.
Michael for $5. Guess it's canon now that Wolverine and Sabretooth are brothers now since it was mentioned by Deadpool.
That's a fourth wall break.
Yeah, and weren't they...
He was teasing.
And the Wolverine that we don't mention, weren't they alluded to as brothers?
Yeah, they were brothers by the same father. They were basically half brothers.
Yeah, they're half brothers in the movie that we don't talk about. So technically, technically, it's already been canon in films before.
Yeah.
Because I was remembering going, wait a minute, I could swear that they were alluded to as brothers in that movie.
Although I did like Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, it's just Tyler Mane did it better.
Yeah.
It looked better.
Let's see. Making sure I don't miss anyone. If I miss anyone, I do apologize. I'm trying to make sure. Hated the road casting and no gambits. They see, again, I'll cover everything. Hello, Daniel. Everybody saying false. Anna Paquin didn't sound like Rogue. No. Again, she's the weakest part. She's the focus.
They tried the accents. They did the accents. They just didn't always go through all the time.
No. Hello, Madelon. Good to see you. Hound 3000 needs some hugs. Wolf Wolf. Hello.
Hugs and pets to you, bub.
I did love Days of Future Past. I love the concept that
Rogue cut best.
Yeah. And I compared basically that scene to the Abomination we got in the Flash movie when both Quicksilver and the Flash used their powers. And I did that on X to show how you have a 2014 movie and a 2020 something movie, and the 2014 movie worked so much better than the other movie. And people were coming into my mention is going, well, Quicksilver and the Flash, their abilities are stem from different orders. I'm I'm not talking about their fucking abilities, you retards. I'm talking about the special effects.
Yeah, right.
I'm seriously, are you not grasping what I'm pointing out in the movie? Because that was a whole spiel from the writer or director or something about why the effects look like shit. I'm
and there's also a very big difference between the powers of a speedster and the powers of a mutant speedster.
Yeah, I'm saying it's I'm telling people I'm not talking about their powers. No shit. I'm not comparing their powers. I'm comparing
the special effects were god fucking awful.
Yeah, but anyway. I was people are so
moving
stupid.
On.
People are so but moving on, people are so stupid, pretty much. Yeah, I was so basically. So technically it was canon already before Deadpool even brought it up.
He brought it up to mock that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Sabretooth, your brother. Yeah. It's dude, no.
He has the mindset and attitude, but not the size. I would agree to that extent. Yeah, he was a little too small for Sabretooth. Sabretooth, he's big.
He also had the mutton chops and the hair. It's just that it wasn't fucking blonde. It's dude, He is not a fucking brunette.
No. I enjoyed First Class. I think Days of Future Past was like
Better.
overall better, but I did like First Class. I did like the
Even though they got some of the fucking
Yeah.
powers extremely wrong.
So I did overall enjoy it, especially basically James McAvoy as Charles Xavier and Michael Fassbender as Eric Lensher, Magneto. Like those two basically were the ones that stood out in that movie.
And
the rest of them are like could take or leave. Basically, Kevin Bacon was good as the villain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the rest of the casting was I could take them or leave them.
Yeah. I mean, I did like Azazel or what's his name? Fuck.
As
guy who played Azazel.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. It's Azazel's actually Nightcrawler's father because because Azazel and Mystique do the deed, and that's why we get Nightcrawler. Yeah. But anyway, let me share my screen. So we're gonna be like jumping through this movie pretty much. But like I said, this is from 2000. So, and this is technically a Rogue origin story as well as technically a Wolverine origin story in not so much when I say not like technically an origin story, but like him joining the X-Men or becoming part of the X-Men. It's a Rogue origin story in the sense that now like her powers have manifested and it scares her. Which causes her to run away.
Yeah, that vein on the nose, man, on the boyfriend's nose, it's like, dude, you got some weird veinage going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason Fleming.
Okay, yeah. Like we're never really going to get a size accurate Wolverine without it looking funny on screen because Wolverine's actually I think he's closer to 5 foot, but basically he's around 5 feet, 5'1" tall in the comics. Like he's a short, stocky dude. We're never going to get like a really comic book accurate Logan. Like they
we
showed
only
it
got a
Deadpool
little
Wolverine.
bit of it in Deadpool Wolverine.
I know, but I'm saying it's like when we got in Deadpool Wolverine, I'm like, as much as I love the character, I would never be able to take it seriously because of how short he is.
I know. Oh my god, I love that.
So it's like I would never be able to take it seriously. I'm sorry.
The fucking montage, baby. But
it's like, weren't you an adorable little comic book accurate Wolverine? Like he's like,
right. Can't use you. Cue the fucking montage, baby. But yeah, then they but getting back to this, the guy who brings Rogue to Laughlin City, do you know his connection to the X-Men?
No, that I don't know.
He's the original voice of Beast in the cartoon.
Interesting. So that's basically a Beast cameo, essentially.
Essentially, cool. Very much a Beast cameo. He's like,
yeah.
When I first watched it with the audio commentary, it's like, turn off the audio commentary, get back to the freaking movie. This is Laughlin City, and I'm like, fuck, that is him. Oh my god, because I had the X-Men 1.5, which gave all the special features and stuff, which was so great. This was so freaking
because this is like basically Eric Lensher's origin. His powers become at least I don't want to say manifest here, but like like it's kind of revealed what his abilities are because he's reaching for his parents. He's Jewish. That's like part of his character's background. He's Jewish and he was part of it. Sent to one of those Nazi concentration camps. So when he's separated from his parents, he reaches for them and he's causing metal to bend, go towards him and things like that. So we see his powers.
Yeah, he's clinging to the he's clinging to the gate, which is starting to bend toward him, and he's dragging. I love how he's dragging the soldiers toward the gate, and you even see his own reaction is like, "What the." When they finally hit him, and it's like, oh, dang, man.
Yeah. Hey, Calix. Yeah. So there's a little bit of origin story beginning for Magneto. We get basically his background where you can kind of understand. You can kind of understand his reaction to what normal people are doing. with
Yeah,
the
it's
Mutant Registration Act that is not going through Congress, or at least is at least going to be
The
voted
Senate.
on, basically Senate
Yeah,
and so forth.
it's
And
in the Senate
so
because Senator Kelly. But yeah, I also like how he tells Charles, he's like, "What would you have me do, Charles? I've heard these talks before."
yeah, which again, it's in a little bit of exposition, but at the same time still works as dialogue. We find out that they've known each other for a long time, and that's so it's believable that Charles would have continued frequently, and just about every chance he got tried to dissuade Magneto from his course, basically.
He's like, and I like what he tells him. He's like, "I'm searching for hope, and I will bring you hope, old friend.
Yeah.
I only ask one thing in return: don't get in my way."
Yes, so
And yes, I can do an Ian McKellen impersonation very well.
Yes, I like again. I wish I could kind of play these scenes, but unfortunately, if I play a little too much, it gets hit. And plus, I need to put the in the stream. Well, whatever. I forgot to add that this is property.
Yeah, of Marvel, fair use. We're doing this to show love. So, but I also do like that the faces, or one half of each of their face, when they're facing each other, is obscured or shadowed a little bit, which is pretty cool. It shows that they are they have the same goal. They just go about achieving that goal differently.
Mm-hmm. It's like Trey's pointing out, they always have respect for each other, even as adversaries. So
yeah, we are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter.
I think it would have been cool because, again, in dialogue, it's because it's so hard to tell Logan's age. Like Jean Grey points out, he could be older than you, to the professor. Yeah. We have no idea of knowing how old.
Unless you look it up.
Unless you look it up, in which case, basically, he is extremely old because
he's
of
over
his
200.
Incredible regenerative abilities, healing abilities.
He was born in
over 200 years.
I think he was born in 1843.
Yeah, it's
he was
because he fought in the Civil War, which we saw in the Origins movie. So he was born in, I believe, it was around the 1840s. So he is almost 200 years old. He isn't lived a long time. So it would have been actually believable to show him. However, if we were to show him in that capacity, and then again later on, we'd be like, wait a minute.
1832. September 5th, 1832.
So we would have been like, wait a minute.
Wolverine just had his birthday recently. And
so they could have shown it maybe as a flashback.
190 some odd, or he's 192 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they could have showed it maybe as a flashback, but
he can't remember anything past
but he could
15 years prior.
It'd be a memory of Magneto. It could have shown it as a flashback memory of Magneto, but Logan himself would not have remembered anything before what happened to him with getting the adamantium grafted to his skeleton.
These fucking things.
Yes.
But yeah, I do like how, or if you pay attention to the readings or the special features to this movie, folks, you hear you see the readings, or the Hugh Jackman readings, because he was the biggest he was the biggest hit of this film because he's Wolverine and shit. And he's like, I just woke, or the last thing I remember, waking up in a jungle with these things, or with freaking metal claws. So yeah, and I like how he reads it because he does a good job even when he was doing the auditions, which is why he got the role. So honestly,
part of the trivia I read is
go ahead.
Taking cold showers in the morning before he filmed his scenes was became part of a ritual for him because of the effects the extremely cold water have on your body, which is kind of you get to that state where you're you're jolted awake and things like that, and the emotions you go through. It's he kind of, to him, that's how he got into the head of Wolverine, where it's he wants to fight.
Yeah, your body's agitated essentially.
Yes, he's basically in a constant agitated state.
Yeah, which is basically what he is in, because his body is constantly in pain due to the. People don't realize this. The adamantium in his body weighs him down and also causes him pain.
Well, he says that,
this-
like, like when the Rogue is like,
it's
does those hurt?
pain.
When the claws come out, he's like, every time. So even when the claws come out, like, they hurt every time.
Because it's splitting his freaking skin, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually see it when they go up close with the center claw coming out. When he has the when he goes like this with the guy and has the other claw slowly coming out.
Mhm.
And oh, fuck, that hurt. These are not real, by the way, folks. These are plastic. See, plastic. By the way, do not fucking cancel this stream, YouTube, you fucks.
But anyway, so. But let's okay, so basically the overall plot in this movie is like, so we're not going scene by scene with it, is the Senate is putting forth a mutant registration act. Basically, to sum up what that would entail, it would mean that anybody with the
mutant X gene,
mutant X gene, who is like found to be a mutant would have to be part of this nationwide registration, which means that their information would be out there.
Yep.
So like, which is like, I'm of the mindset where it's like, I don't want, it's basically anybody who thinks Civil War did it first with the Superhero Registration Act. No, this movie did it first, basically, which would have been the same thing. All right. And which I would have been on the side of, at least if for Civil War, as much as I don't like Civil War, I would have been on the side of Captain America, where it's like, no, I'm not going to risk the lives of people, like people.
You're endangering people if you do that shit.
Yes, but that's like basically that's what's going on in this movie. You have like normal humans fearing basically those with the X mutation as if like they were weapons, basically. So it's like that whole little mindset. And Bruce Davidson plays Senator Kelly, and he's one of the ringleaders of trying to get this registration through the Senate and passed. So he becomes the focus, essentially, or at least a focus of the Brotherhood of Mutants led by Magneto. So you have Magneto. In this movie, you have Magneto, Mystique, Sabretooth, and Toad are the ones you see.
Ray Park did such a great job as Toad, man.
And this is like the only movie where his voice isn't dubbed.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so we hear his actual voice in this movie, whereas as Half Off at the Mall, Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, it was dubbed over by Peter. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but he played the guy. If you've seen Shaun of the Dead, he was the annoyed roommate. If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, he was the one that says, "What an asshole." That actor.
Yeah, he's also in John Wick Chapter 2, where he plays the guy who's the weapons guy in Italy.
Yes, his last name begins with an S. It's one of those like long names, and like I can see it. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But you chances are, chat, you've seen this actor.
Oh yeah, you've
seen this actor, and he's the one who dubbed over for Maul in The Phantom Menace. And this one here, you hear Ray Park's actual voice because he plays Toad.
And a lot of people don't realize that Ray Park is not a tall man.
No, he's not. No.
He's in the, I believe he's in the under 6 foot range. But yeah.
But he's a martial artist, so he's very agile, and it's like, so kind of in a way works for the Toad character, because the Toad, as disgusting as his abilities are, he's very agile.
Yeah.
So it works. But anyway, it's like, so basically we'll talk about the characterizations now of each of the mutants that we see in this movie. So I have it right now paused on Professor X, Charles Xavier, played by Sir Patrick Stewart.
Great actor.
So, and we'll kind of talk about him and Magneto at the same time. So what were your impressions of those two actors as those characters?
They were perfectly cast, in my opinion. Even when I saw this movie as a teenager, it's like, it's as if they pulled these two straight out of the comic books, where they are, I mean, because you just believe with Sir Ian McKellen's performance that he did grow up like that. He grew up with that prejudice, because he kind of actually did, folks. Ian McKellen is gay, and
Mhm.
he grew up in a time where that was very taboo.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you watch the making of, he's like, I, Sir Ian McKellen, am a mutant because I grew up, or I am a gay man, and during a time when they thought it was a very outside of the norm thing.
Mhm.
And so when you see that and you understand that this dude actually lived that kind of prejudice and whatnot, it's a perfect casting. It is just an absolute perfect casting because he has that to draw on. Patrick Stewart never did any readings until they sent him like a crate of comic books, and then he did the reading, and he does it so well. He plays the character as if he was tailor made for it.
Mhm.
And well, his bald head
Yeah.
certainly.
Well, I
Everybody
mean,
got
he
used to it,
was
and
pretty
yeah.
much Bryan Singer's only choice, even though other actors lobbied for the role of Professor X. Bryan Singer had pretty much his heart set on casting Sir
Oh, yeah.
Patrick Stewart for
What
this role,
rating?
and as much as like I said, enjoyed James McAvoy as a younger Charles Xavier, for me, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are like the definitive versions of these characters because I think like their interactions in these movies for me are more believable than again. I like Michael Fassbender as a younger Magneto. I like James McAvoy as a younger Charles Xavier, but the interactions with these actors in this movie, Stewart and McKellen, I believe more in
Yeah.
terms of friendship, the respect they have for each other despite their differences in approach, is more basically believable. I believe these like when I see Patrick Stewart's look here, and then I'll try to like find a shot of Ian McKellen. It's like that is a look of I'm trying to get through to you, basically.
Yeah.
He's still searching for hope. That's
And
basically the driving force behind Professor X is hope that humans and mutants can coexist, live together. Whereas
where
Magneto is like, we can't. So like
it's
it's
like
going to
I'm
be more
sick and
between
tired
us.
of trying.
Yeah.
Magneto's sick and tired of trying.
Yeah.
He's seen that it's just not happening the way he would like it to.
Mhm.
Where yeah, go back another 10 or now go back
Let me
another
see.
for yeah.
Let me see. See if I can get like a better shot of his face. Because he's like
Go forward 20.
can't. It's like dark, basically obscured.
No,
But anyway,
play a little
see,
bit
like,
of it, or no, go forward 10 again.
if I hold on, I'm just gonna let it play. I'm just gonna play pause.
Yeah. But yes, also they are not based off of Malcolm X and MLK. That is a myth.
No, that is
That's actually confirmed in the making of the series or of the movie that this was there, or that was basically Stewart and McKellen's draw, essentially.
well, it's basically also
It
been
was-
confirmed like that was not the original draw for
No.
when the X-Men were created. It's been confirmed
Yeah.
in other sources, but like you idiots on Twitter keep peddling that as like, oh,
Yeah,
you know, like
it's like-
these were the inspirations for these characters. I'm like, no, they weren't.
No, they really weren't. Because well, during '63, well, yeah,
Well,
Martin Luther
because
King
like
was
you
making
have
his,
Magneto's origin is he's Jewish and he was in a concentration camp, so which is kind of like plays into the animosity he has towards the like in particular those who are pushing for this Mutant Registration Act because
Mhm.
you see like he and his family had to wear like the gold stars of David
Yep.
to show that they were Jewish, basically identify them as Jewish, and like he's against like the Mutant Registration Act because it would identify mutants, it would put mutants in danger.
Yeah. And not only, or to answer Mike Hill, wouldn't Xavier have been a better speaker than Jean Grey? Yes, but he also wants his students to be out there to speak against it. If he's doing it all the time, remember, this dude can easily, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, he could easily make it so each one of them have the best idea. But he wants them to try to make it on their own, because he's not always going to be there, you know? He wants them to actually understand that I can't always be there to do that stuff. It would be a misuse. And there is a deleted scene from this movie where she's asking to use Cerebro, and he tells her, he's like, "You're not ready." During the Senate hearing, she's like, "I know, I lost control." And it's like, what, was she making things shake? Or did she just lose control of the whole debate? You know?
Yes.
That was the whole, or that's what I'm guessing it was. But she always, or that's the thing about Jean, her powers are constantly in a state of expansion and growth. She is a Omega, or she was born an Omega class mutant. Where Charles and others, yes, they were born with the potential. She was born as an Omega class mutant. Her mutation didn't manifest until she was a kid, but she was still very powerful even as a child. Where
Which is like, again, like would have been, if they had done The Last Stand properly, in terms of the Dark Phoenix storyline, would have been like amazing to see, like how those powers manifested, like it evolved within her.
Yeah, because the Phoenix Force. Well, the thing is, she herself is an Omega class mutant, even without the Phoenix.
Yeah,
because the Phoenix.
But when she gets the Phoenix Force, it is like
it just purely puts her way past that. She is literally an avatar of death at that point, and rebirth.
So,
but yeah, Magneto, he himself could literally destabilize the planet if he wanted to. If he decided to really reach down, like Apocalypse told him, reach deep down. Thing is, he wouldn't need Apocalypse's enhancement. He could literally just concentrate as hard as he could and literally destabilize Earth's core if he wanted to. Magneto is that powerful.
Yes, which is like, you know, like would have been just a little nice to see in these movies, but at the same time, it's like I don't mean that to take away from the performances we got with these two main characters, because I'd say the best performances and casting within this movie are arguably Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Yeah,
they were pretty much born to play both of their respective roles, and I again appreciate that Bryan Singer was able to work with Ian McKellen, given the production schedule for Lord of the Rings, and that way finish basically Ian McKellen's scenes with enough time for McKellen to actually travel to New Zealand and start filming his scenes for Lord of the Rings in January of 2000. So,
Famke Janssen was also a very good, folks, if you take a look at the interviews with the actors and actresses, most of them were not comic book people. They actually openly admit it, and it's like, they still did a good job, though. That's the wonderful thing. They still did a good job with it.
And I mean, like, most of them, like, while they were not comic book aficionados, actually did research, or at least some research prior to taking the roles, and actually read the comics. You know, it's like, you know, like making like movies like that nowadays, and they're told, don't read the comics. And we don't want you to come into this role with like any type of, you know, belief or thinking like in terms of what the character is. No, we don't do that. Back then it was like, okay, we're gonna need you to read these comics because we need you to fucking understand this character basically and how the character is portrayed. While I think like, you know, again, Cyclops is like, you know, an incredibly strong mutant and can hold his own. I think he's one of the ones that actually kind of gets a shaft in every like iteration I've seen him in live action, because I don't know what it is about them not being able to get that character right exactly. It kind of gets pushed to the background at like basically the expense of like good characterization for his character to show other mutants. But at the same time, it's like,
well, the thing is, when compared with, or he's a brilliant tactician, sure, or in the comics, he is a brilliant tactician, Cyclops is. But in this movie, they wanted to show that even though Wolverine doesn't remember his past, he is a soldier who has lived through several wars in combat. So he understands, because there is also a deleted scene of that scene in the bedroom. He's like, have you ever been to combat, or have you ever seen Combat Boy? Have you? And Wolverine just gives him a look, and he's like, don't like to talk about your past? Not to you. And it's like, yeah, dude, Wolverine has seen shit. He just can't remember seeing the shit, you know?
Yeah. Plus, like, there was also a deleted scene between, at least in conversation between Cyclops and Professor X, where Cyclops is like, he can't take an order.
Yeah.
And like basically, and Professor X is like, give him an order worth following, he'll take it.
Yep.
So Professor X
love
understands
that too. Yeah.
So while even not knowing the character, like Logan's background, Professor X understands the character, like basically
Understands
Logan
his
has
personality.
like basically his personality. Like, give him an order worth following, he will do it.
He's
but like you said,
basically, he's a weapon. Point him in the right direction.
Yeah. So.
And Cyclops is a person who will make the hard decisions when he has to. And it really does show in the later, Liberty Torch time or moment where he's like, I have to do this. It's like, Jean, I have to just wait. Well, all right, fine. I have a shot and I'm going to take it.
Okay.
Oh, this scene was great.
Yeah, I'm not gonna exactly go back to show Rogue's origin, but I gotta talk about her character, because they basically give her elements of Jubilee's character and Kitty Pryde's character in this movie. Where Jubilee has a connection with Wolverine. When I say connection, I mean like they understand each other, not romantic connection, but they understand each other. And Kitty Pryde's in terms of like, there's a storyline with her where she's being hunted by the Brotherhood. So basically, they took elements of those stories and gave it to Rogue in this movie. However, to me, Rogue is the weakest part of this story, and the reason why it's multifold for me. And once I'm done, I'll let you talk about your impressions of her as a character. But I think, for one, I don't like that they started her as young as they did.
No.
I would have preferred she could still be younger. When I say younger, than Jean Grey and Cyclops, because she is technically younger than those two characters. However, I would have preferred that she was already established as a student at Professor X's school. She's actually learned how to hone her powers and everything. But they turn her, and Trey put it, an angsty teen, almost an angsty teen in this movie. So like, no, you're starting her way too young.
She's like 16 in the movie.
Yeah, I don't want to see a Rogue origin story. And if you're going to do that, do a proper origin story where you actually see them, like Jean Grey, Cyclops, even Storm as students as well, basically, because they would have been students roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, do it properly that way. But they didn't, and they started her too young. Secondly, her accent, I'm like, it came and went.
Yeah.
Rogue is supposed to be like a really feisty character. I'm like, where's that feistiness? Where's that fire? I'm not seeing that. She also has red hair, which basically because she's feisty, because she's fiery, so they give her red hair for her character, which makes sense. And then two, in terms of like your storyline, I'm saying that because basically they gave her the Kitty Pryde story of being hunted by the Brotherhood. Secondly, Anna Paquin can't act.
No, I agree. She has a certain physical appeal, sure. But even that is not as good as others. But when it came to Anna Paquin and the character of Rogue, when you do a comparison like we always would between the 90s cartoon and this movie, you definitely see a very big difference. Her accent pretty much is very slippy, or it's very slippery. And she only develops her feistiness after she gets a huge dose of Wolverine from the end of the movie, where he saves her life. But it's like, this girl was always a feisty
A firecracker. And she's always
yeah,
feisty.
she was a firebrand. She was essentially one to knock a person out before taking any shit from them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You say the wrong thing to her, she'll just turn around and just knock your ass out.
Yeah.
Even without enhanced strength, because she got all that power from Miss Marvel. But
that would have been a storyline I would love to see, because basically she puts Ms. Marvel in a coma and takes her powers when she does that.
Oh my god, when they finally, or if they finally bring in the X-Men into the MCU, which is now completely dead by it, or in my opinion, I would so want to see Rogue freaking just lay out Brie Larson. It'd be like, oh, just give me this one thing.
Yeah.
Please.
I agree with that to an extent. I would not have minded, like, you know, just seeing Rogue in the first movie, as long as she was older.
Yeah.
And like more established as a part of the basically part of the X-Men versus what we got here, and then maybe introduce Gambit in the second movie as part. Like they find him in the second movie, and that way you could still progress that way.
Who would have been Gambit in, or if
you would need another firebrand, because that's not like he and Rogue bounce off each other in that way, because he has that what's that accent called? French?
Cajun
accent, basically.
Yeah, because he's definitely he's the raging Cajun, as they call him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the version that we got of Rogue in this one, I mean, it's definitely a universe unto itself, because this is a very different Rogue from what people are used to. I didn't agree with this version of Rogue, because it is a very big difference. And yes, they used her as a plot device, and it's like, I really am not. I don't like characters who are plot devices, because in a way, it takes away from them, but it also may give them a little bit more spotlight too. She is not a huge main character. She works best as not a side character, but a supporting character.
Yeah, this movie, she should have been started earlier, older.
Yeah, she should. I wouldn't have had her at 16 like she is in this movie. I would have put her around the 20 to 24 or 20 to 22 year range.
Yeah, I'm saying like she is her character. Like she is younger than like Jean Grey and Cyclops, but like she could have been at least close. Like she should have been closer in age to them. Yeah. Like I said, and established as part of the X-Men. She still could be younger, but like she's way too young in this one.
Yeah, because then they also. They also have Kitty. They actually do have Kitty Pryde in this movie.
Yeah,
played by a different actress altogether. They also have Pyro, which was played by a different actor.
Like in the second movie.
Yeah. I like how they introduced those characters, but they were good teases. They didn't really have anything else going until the second movie.
Yeah. Even in the cartoon, she was in her 20s. Like she's like old. She's already established. So it's like like I said, if they were going to do an origin story for these characters, like have them be brought to the school, basically, found by Professor X, and you could have done an origin story for all of them, and like they would have at least come around to the school around the same time or close to the same time, basically with Cyclops and Jean being two of his first students, followed by Storm, and then followed by Rogue.
Yeah. And God, what was I going to say? But getting into this scene, when you do these movies, you got to have a large suspension of disbelief, because if you are having if you're having Wolverine fighting people in a cage, and this dude meets a fist with another meat fist that's not metal, that dude's fist would have been completely obliterated.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit. But I understand the
disbelief. Yeah, you can't exactly. Yeah. You did hear the metal, because I was watching this movie, and you did hear the metal, when he would punch or do anything. But I'm when you're punching someone whose entire skeleton has been grafted with this incredibly dense metal, your hand would be hurting if, like, at the very fucking least.
At the very
hand would be
least, it
hurting.
would be hurting. At the
I
very
said
most,
very least, yeah.
at the very most, your hand would basically
crushed.
be like this, withered.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, at the very, like, it's like at the, like, but
And
you didn't
crushed.
see that, so it's like one of those where it's like, oh, like this little bit of a nitpick, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
like, it's one that you can, like, kind of brush off because it's like they're not going to exactly show everything that
Obviously.
would be accurate
Yeah.
to the
But
character. However,
I like the introduction, though. Whatever you do, don't hit him in the balls. You said anything goes. Anything
Yeah, but
goes,
you
but he'll take it personal.
so it's like, and I do, again, like, we're never going to get a height-wise comic book accurate Wolverine.
No, it won't.
It's just not going to happen. I do like Hugh Jackman's casting as Wolverine.
Oh, it just works.
Yeah, like, he does, like, really get into, like, basically, like, that constant agitation, like the state that Wolverine is in. Like, from basically because his skeleton's been grafted with this metal, and because, like, he has no idea, like, he can't remember anything before he had that metal grafted to his skeleton, so he's constantly living in a state where it's like he wants to fight, he wants to let out that aggression, but he can't. So basically he allows himself to basically be pimped for money in a fight ring, in, like, the middle of nowhere, until it's discovered when he defends himself against this guy later on that he's a mutant. So, and I love when the guy, like, sticks that shotgun to the back of Wolverine's head and like basically calls him a freak and tells him to get out of there, and then with his other set of claws just obliterates that shotgun.
Yeah. Because it shows that people don't realize his senses are all dialed to 10 with his mutation. Even if losing his eyes, or he loses any of his senses, all the other ones get dialed not up to 11, but to 20. That's,
you can see him, like, sniffing, like he can smell, like, like if another, like, like,
he can smell other people. They have different distinct smells,
because and we'll talk about this little fight scene later on. He can tell, like, based on their smell, if they're, like, the person they are or not.
Yep. Because or when he has that guy's shotgun up to his head, he just looks a little bit, and then he already judged distance, so he doesn't hurt the guy. He just goes after the weapon. Yeah. And he already has the claw with the other guy right up to his throat. It's like, dude, back the fuck off. But shit's already out of the bag. And I love in the third movie, there was a deleted ending where he actually goes back to the same bar. And the guy has a new shotgun.
That would have been funny to watch.
Oh, you could see it if you actually go to the special features of that movie.
Yeah. So we already talked about Rogue. I'm not going to talk about her.
Sabretooth.
It's basically. Let's talk about the Brotherhood, of X-Men, and then we'll talk about the Professor X's X-Men.
Yeah.
So the Brotherhood and the X-Men. The Brotherhood, Sabretooth, Tyler Mane, who is, like, built literally for this role.
McConaughey's Gambit, that could have worked. But Sabretooth I liked because they really did bring out the animalistic character of him. And he just did it so damn well. And the look just was, he was tailor-made for this role because it just works so well. And he is a man of very few words in this movie. I mean, it's like he talks in, like, 2 scenes, I believe. No, 3 scenes.
Well, very few scenes,
4
basically.
scenes.
Like, it's like he growls mostly.
Mostly it's growls and roars and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when he does speak, it's good lines, But I also like how he is treated by Magneto in certain situations, like after Senator Kelly escapes from the island. he's going to leave the cell, and Magneto shuts it on him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You fuck."
Yeah.
He's just
Even like
right.
Toad pushes his buttons because like when
Yeah.
when he comes back empty-handed and Toad's like, "Weren't you supposed to bring something?" like,
Weren't you supposed to bring someone back with you?
yeah, with you,
Like,
and you hear the growl. It's like, ah.
yeah, it's like, and you see Toad just smiling.
Just
He's like,
smiling and going back
yeah.
to his work.
Yeah. And it's just so great. But also Rebecca Romaine. At this time, she was Rebecca Romaine Stamos, but
Yeah.
that's neither here or there. She just did such a great job. People don't realize she was buck naked for that.
Or her
Or
prosthetic
for all
makeup, and I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
like finding scenes chats. I'm like going back and forth, but her makeup was like 9 hours,
Yeah.
and she had rules to the point where it's like she wasn't even allowed to travel the day before she would have started filming because that would have changed her body chemistry. Like she had like her body chemistry had to be like stable the entire time she was filming this because of the makeup she was using, and it took like let me see if I can find the trivia for it.
I mean, they had to use patches to cover up the obvious
It took
bits, but
110 custom designed prostheses, which covered 60% of her body and took 9 hours to apply. She could not drink wine, use skin creams, nor fly the day before filming because it could have caused her body chemistry to change slightly, causing the prosthetics to fall off. So she had like rules to actually follow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the makeup would not have worked.
And not to mention when you're shooting in different sets and whatnot, if it's hot or cold, remember she's naked. So yeah, she's usually in like coats or bigger coats for certain scenes and whatnot. It's just really goes there. And I like what they did with her voice as well, where they don't do that with later versions of her character.
I just want to like show this thing because this is like where we actually are introduced to Mystique.
Yeah.
So I like this.
Yep. And I like her theme in this movie.
Yeah.
With the strings, it goes very well.
And basically, she's disguised herself as his assistant, and we find out his assistant has been dead for some time, basically.
And later on,
we find out at the end of the movie, like looks like mauled by an animal.
Yeah, mauled by a bear. And it's like some people have actually said it could have been Mystique with her transformations, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, that was
Sabretooth that did that shit.
Yeah, that was Sabretooth doing basically.
Yeah. And I love her her physicality in this movie, where she uses her foot to pin the back of his neck and hold his, or she could easily snap his neck with her feet right there.
Yeah.
And the way that she is just so physical just works very well. And it really shows later on when she's fighting Wolverine.
And her, like, just one of her lines in this movie, you can kind of understand why she would align herself with Magneto. Because it's like, people like you was the reason why I was afraid to go to school.
Yeah.
So, like, there's, like, they're basically capturing this man because he is the face of the Mutant Registration Act. And she, like, uses her feet basically to knock him out.
Yep. Oof. But yeah, Toad was the freaking pilot too.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep. We're playing 4D chess, dude. You're playing checkers.
Yeah. So, and like basically, like you only really see 3 followers from Magneto: Sabretooth, literally tailor-made for this role. Rebecca Romaine, leagues better than Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique in terms of femme fatale. Because Mystique really is a femme fatale.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
she uses that to her.
If you pay attention to Ian McKellen's references to her, it's like, she's good. You have no idea.
No idea. Yeah.
I mean, he's playing a straight character, folks. He's playing a heterosexual character. There is no doubt that those two have had intimate relations of some sort.
They didn't say, but in this movie, it's like shown periodically when her eyes change.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when she's I'm just gonna basically, like, you know, spoiler if you haven't watched the end of the movie, but she basically changes her appearance to look like Senator Kelly, even though Senator Kelly is dead, to
Mhm.
make it seem like Kelly has changed his mind on the Mutant Registration Act, and because she's wounded,
Yep.
like, and still in pain from where Wolverine stabbed her, her eyes change. So
Yeah.
it
To give her
shows rather
away.
than tells that she's not able to hold the appearance for very long, depending on the situation.
She has to
So,
concentrate when she's in
and when she
these
can't
different forms.
concentrate, her eye, you see the eye color just change to
Slip.
yellow. Yeah.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. It show like we don't need the exposition. We can see that she really needs to concentrate to maintain that, like, whatever appearance she's manifesting, whether it's Senator Kelly's assistant or as
Statue of
Senator Kelly
Liberty.
himself or whatever. Basically, she has to maintain her appearance,
Because
the concentration for
and-
the appearance she's chosen.
yeah, and it's anything more human shaped because she does pretend to be a Statue of Liberty, or a Statue of Liberty statue in or on Liberty Island, which is pretty cool. But I also like how she underestimates Wolverine, even though she kicks the crap out of him, and she's also very femininely, or she is a femme fatale. She's very sexual with some of her stuff, with the whole kisses and licking her lips and whatnot. It's like this woman is meant to, or is going to make you uneasy as she kicks your ass,
Pretty much.
because she's pretty much a psychopath to the point where she gets off with violence.
Yeah. And that's, like, again, what I appreciated, like, it's like what you could see of the fight scenes at the end, in that while the X-Men are capable, they're not invincible. So
Yeah.
you have Wolverine still getting his ass kicked by Mystique. Jean Grey has trouble with Toad. Even Storm has trouble with Toad, basically. So they're
Yep.
not invincible. They're not perfect, but they are capable. So they bounce back.
It's basically when you push them to the point where they have to really unload or unleash. Because Toad is very physical. He can get the jump on them. Hand-to-hand combat, they're not the best. But once they unleash their powers, Jean is a very powerful telekinetic. She can keep Toad at bay, but she also doesn't know his full power, his full range of his powers. So, like the Toad spit, as I call it, the sploosh, she's caught off guard because she doesn't expect it. Where when Storm decides to cut loose, she's not giving him any range. She's just purely using wind to keep him at bay because she does know that this man is dangerous up close.
Yes.
And it really shows that she herself is also incredibly smart, powerful. The X-Men are incredibly tactful. They're all brilliant tacticians, where the Brotherhood is they're very physical. Where it's ranged versus melee, basically, in this movie, where the Brotherhood is very disenfranchised. Their mutation is very much in their looks. So they would obviously be more keyed to Magneto because they're very disenfranchised. Where where all the students, they don't really have too much, or they can essentially pass for human.
Yes.
Their mutations are more subtle. And I like that dichotomy because it does give you, or it does really show that these people, or why these people would choose one side or the other. And you also have Wolverine come out and say, it's like, Magneto's right. There is a war coming. Are you sure you're on the right side?
No, they don't. They don't say her age, which I don't mind, because we don't need all the exposition. We don't need to know. I mean, like, if you knew the characters, you'll know how old they are. Like they are older than they look.
Yeah.
Especially if they do have the regeneration abilities like Wolverine does.
Yep.
So, but
I mean, anybody with a healing factor will have cells that regenerate so that they are in a constant state of prime.
Yeah. It kind of was cringe, especially when she kind of gave an answer to that. I would have left it as, do you know what happens to a Toad when struck by lightning, and just left it at that. Just have the lightning strike him and just not say anything afterward, or not say anything, else after that.
Yep.
Um,
But I absolutely love that scene where she wrecks Toad's shit, man. It's like, you're not getting close to me.
no. And when she actually unleashes her power, I mean, they do age slower, but like at the same time, like when you have the regeneration ability, like you are constantly in your prime.
Yep. Where also, I mean, that's the thing. Magneto has a lot of mutants, but they're mostly due to their physical mutations. They're of a lower class, where most of the X-Men are extremely powerful. I mean, Storm is Omega class. Scott is just a shade under. Freaking Jean Grey is Omega class.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, if you have a physical mutation where your body is affected, you are of a weaker type of mutation. Where if you have, or if you look more human with your mutations, you have a much higher ability. You are of a much higher class of mutant, which is pretty cool.
So she's referencing a callback to the deleted scene. While part of me would have tried to find a way to edit that line out, even if it's a callback to the deleted scene. Like I said, just
because she freaking launches Sabretooth right out of the train station with a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Scream for me.
So, but let's see if I can get this scene where she takes some of his regeneration powers, gets to heal.
And you see that Blob is actually in the fucking or is one of the damn kids there. But yeah, Iceman. People don't realize that Iceman himself is essentially immortal.
Yeah. So
stunning and brave. You're not wrong. Rogue's got an Omega ass.
So
I love that scream for me.
And I love how like Toad is able to get the drop on Scott, like I said, because of his tongue. So it's like Scott's not paying attention to him, and he's able to do that. And that's like again, like people don't know about the character. If he doesn't like that, those glasses help him. If he doesn't wear them, this is what happens whenever he opens his eyes.
And that's because of a head injury. When he was younger, he sustained a head injury, which made him unable to control his powers. Yes. Where before that head injury, he did have the ability to control them. But due to the head injury, this is a problem. He has to forever wear red tinted glasses due to the fact that they help keep it at bay.
So again, like real fast, we've like touched on the X-Men characters, but like, what did you think of guest performances? Like we have James Morrison as Cyclops, Halle Berry as Storm, and Famke Janssen as Jean Grey.
Halle Berry was I liked Halle Berry because she does kind of convey that an inner goddess, or basically a weather goddess. Mm-hmm. She has that appeal. Famke Janssen, I actually thought that she did a pretty good job. She is timid. Jean Grey is timid for the most part because she fears what her power can do. Mm-hmm. And you get that sense from Famke Janssen when she plays this role. She is afraid of what she can do, but she's also confident in a way as well. Marsden here, I thought that he played it as good as he could, considering the role he was given. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like Wolverine. He is a leader, but he also doesn't want his leadership skills checked. He has a bit of a ego on him, where Wolverine presses those buttons. It's like, keep your eye open, and flips him off and all sorts of shit. He's like, dude, you could tell me where to go, you could tell me what to do, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to fucking respect you as a leader. Where he is constantly basically angsty because Wolverine is on the case with him. But I do like I don't have too much of a problem with the casting of the main or of the big three X-Men there, because for the most part, I thought that they did pretty well. Mm-hmm. The only real casting problems or casting issue I had was Anna Paquin, because Anna
Yeah.
Paquin, she doesn't have the right. No offense to her, she just doesn't have the right stuff.
No,
But when or
the
these
casting wise,
characters,
I loved like the casting in general for the X-Men. Basically, like I said, I
8
just
out of
wish
10.
they like would utilize Cyclops as he should be. Where it's like I
Yeah.
feel like like I said, he kind of gets pushed to the background, to like basically to highlight other X-Men and their abilities. Like he's kind of pushed to the background in this case, you know, for like Wolverine to shine, basically, or for Storm to shine, essentially.
Yeah. He's shooting.
Whereas-
He's mostly always shooting things, not people, with his
Yes.
optic blasts. And it's
Yeah.
like you don't. He really doesn't have a chance to really unload his optic blasts on somebody in this film.
Because it is incredibly powerful to get hit by one of Cyclops'
Yeah.
blasts, basically. Like I said, like, you know, he is.
It's a physical force.
He's a
It's
very
not-
good. He's a brilliant leader. He's a good tactician. You know, he is like. To compare it to another IP, he's basically Leonardo to Wolverine's Raphael. This is
Yes.
why they, in a way, work in terms
Yes.
of like those differences. And I really would have loved to have seen those, but we don't really see that much from Cyclops. We see it from Wolverine, but not so much from Cyclops. And I would prefer to see that a lot, like more than what we got in this film and even the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And we did have him blast Sabretooth, but at the same time, that's the only time where he's like blasted at like a person, like a mutant versus.
he
just
tried to blast Sabretooth. Sabretooth jumps out of the way.
So
So
But I'm saying,
the
like,
only
he's the only
person
one
he
that, like-
actually shoots
like, you know,
in
like-
this movie is Magneto.
yeah, so that like I'm saying, like, you know, there's like he would keep like really like the only time like we see is at the end, basically when
Yeah.
he's. Otherwise, it's like he's just blasting objects.
Yep.
So.
And I love how they show the damage of what happens outside of the train station in this scene too, because you see people like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
Yeah. Because of how powerful like that is,
That's
like,
how-
due to
yeah.
his head injury. Due to his head injury, that's how, like, you know, if he can't control it, that's how powerful it is.
Yeah.
So like it is like it's not just something he can hide. And yes, this is like another gripe of mine. Basically, it's because
Yes.
the costumes.
It's like, God damn it, stop making them flight suits.
Yeah. So
Get that shit comic accurate for the MCU.
yeah, I'm gonna say like you
Even
know,
though the
like,
MCU is
Deadpool
dead as
and
fuck.
Wolverine.
but-
I know, but Deadpool and Wolverine showed that it could work.
Yeah.
It
I
could
mean,
work.
It really, because he says it perfectly. He's like, I wear the suit as a reminder of what I should have done instead of what I did, you know?
Yeah. So
And
so
they
me, like,
also
I'm
did
not
a good
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
my
not
God.
really going to bitch about like
Yeah.
the like you know like them not the suits not being comic book accurate, but at the same time, it's like the same gripe rewatching this that I did whenever like this movie came out. It's like, in particular, because you have the last fight scene happening at night in a really dimly lit,
Yeah.
like inside basically where they're fighting on inside the Statue of Liberty, and then like outside it's night. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what would have stood out is if maybe their suits were a little bit more comic book accurate, like the yellow spandex, which is joked about in a line
Yeah.
from Cyclops. You know, for Wolverine's suit,
What would you prefer?
Jean Grey should have been an established X-Men. Her suit would have been like, you know, the green that would have stood out as well.
Yeah.
Jean Grey's, like, her yellow would have stood out. Hell, Storm would have definitely stood out because of her outfit. It's like, you know, it's like a silver color, so it would have
Yep.
definitely stood out. You know,
I mean,
Cyclops is blue.
Diversity, folks. You
So I'm
would
like,
have had the diverse colors of the suits and whatnot.
yeah. So
But,
it's like,
yeah.
again, more of a gripe than like necessarily a complaint, but at the same time, it's like harken basically made me remember it, that I felt the same way when this first movie came out.
I like the or the mention in the chat or the scene where they're leaving the train station. Magneto, I like Magneto's powers on display. He does such a great job because this is a person where the X-Men practice restraint. Magneto just fully embraces what he is.
Yeah.
It's like, put your arms up or your hands up. He's like, Okay.
Yeah, and just lists the two cop cars and drops them down where the cops were. The cops dive
And
out of the way, but then they point their guns at him, and just like a flick of his hands, like pulls all the guns out of their hands and turns the guns towards them.
Oh, that wasn't even with his hands. He just gestured with his face. He's like, oh.
Yeah, so
he doesn't even need to use his hands really with these things. He only in certain scenes uses them just basically for dramatic effect.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love how he does these scenes because it's like, care to press your luck, Charles? I don't think I could stop them all. Easily could, but he doesn't.
Oh yeah, he easily could have. He doesn't. Yeah, he just doesn't want to because
like, he just doesn't care.
He sees a war coming.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't exactly see the fact that he's starting the war, but like there is a war coming between normal people and mutants, and like especially in like what he's preparing for, whereas Xavier's trying to find a way for mutants and normal people to coexist.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't believe that we can't.
Yeah, because he tells him, he's like, it won't be that way. Well, then kill me and find out.
Yeah.
Let him pass that law. They'll have you wrapped in chains with a number burned into your forehead. This is Magneto.
Allusion to his time in the concentration camp, basically, because he had that number tattooed on him. So
he has seen the darker side of humanity. He has seen humanity at its worst. He doesn't want it to ever happen, and he will fight against it by any means necessary. That is the character of Magneto. He has mutants are basically of a different scientific name, where we are Homo sapiens, mutants are Homo superior. Mm-hmm. And he absolutely embraces the fact that he is superior to humans. He sees humans as a waste of space.
Mm-hmm. He even says Homo sapiens and their guns. Like he calls them Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens and your guns. He uses it as an insult, folks.
Yeah.
If he could rename humans scientifically, he would call them Homo inferior.
Mm-hmm. So, and like basically just to kind of fast forward, because I want to get to basically the end fight scene where it's like, like pretty much Rogue is a MacGuffin for the entire movie, and the reason why is because Magneto has developed this device which would, much like radiation, infect normal people, which would unnaturally
trigger the mutant gene.
Yeah, basically like awaken a mutant gene within them, but because it's an unnatural process, their bodies would have rejected. Basically, which we see what happens with Senator Kelly. He tests that machine on Senator Kelly to turn him into a mutant, but Kelly's body rejects it because it's not a natural process within him. He wasn't naturally born with that ability, gene and ability. But he wants to turn it on this UN summit that's happening on Ellis Island at the end of the movie, and he can't put his body through it because he puts him in a weakened state afterwards. So the reason why he's hunting down Rogue is because she has the ability to absorb powers.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to use her. So he's not exactly in a weakened state, and use her as like basically the means of sending that radiated energy to those in attendance of the UN summit.
Troy Courtney, Senator Keller.
Disgusting. What happened?
Because he basically returned to, humans are 80% water. He became 100% water.
So, kind of fast forward. See, the thing is, like I said, it's so dark. I would love to show some of these fight scenes, but I see the lighting.
Yeah.
So I do like the line with Cyclops where Wolverine's asking aren't you worried about radar and stuff, and
Harbor Patrol radar.
Yeah, Harbor
Patrol.
They have
anything on our jet, they deserve to catch us.
We deserve to be caught. So if they can do that, we deserve to be caught. So, but it's so like I said, this is another criticism I have of this movie is, again, I don't mind that the last fights happen at night. I don't mind that. It's not so much the time of day I have a problem with. It's this. Look.
Yeah, it's the cinematography for night shots or for any dark shots were shit. That's the only problem with this movie.
Yeah.
Or that's a major problem with this movie. It's like, I can't see shit, man.
Yeah, which better lighting
Dial up the
would have
brightness.
been needed, but also what would have stood out again would have been if they had more comic book accurate colors in their outfits. They would have stood out. It's like the big again. I enjoy the plot of this movie. It's an original plot. I enjoy the acting overall, with some exceptions, and so forth. That don't like, but here it's like where it's like if I'm going to dox this movie any point, it's this last fight scene, and it really boils down to the lighting and the choice of using just all black suits, which basically, if there wasn't like any lighting up front, they would have been you wouldn't be able to see them at all.
Right.
So it's like the only time you really see them is when they're fighting on the inside, but once it gets like near the end, where it's like the last part of the fight, you can't really see much of anything happening.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem here. I like this part here, or I skip through it. This.
Oh, yeah. Keep your eye open. Yeah, flipping them off.
I have this, I believe, as a clip on. Yeah, right here. Look. I forgot I had that as a clip.
Yep.
For giving the middle finger. They use it to give the middle finger to Scott.
Yep. I could do it too. Pshing!
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
I think they made the thumbnail for your review nice.
Yeah.
So, but I like, again, like I can't really cover every fight scene, like part of the fights that happens in this, but Toad holds his own against Storm and Jean. Mystique definitely holds her own against Wolverine. Until she makes the fatal mistake of not realizing how enhanced his senses are, because she tries to disguise herself as Storm at one point, and he's like, except for one thing, he's like, what?
Yeah, there's just one problem.
We need to regroup. If there's a problem, what? And he like turns around, like stabs her with his claws. You're not part of the group, and changes back to Mystique. So, but he can smell. Yeah. The difference. I know Storm scent. You're not Storm, because he goes in, like even earlier, whenever he's like Rogue is tagging along with them after stowing away in his like little bed for his bike at near the beginning of the movie, and after they crash, he's like you see like the close up of his nostrils. He's smelling another. Someone else there. Yeah. So he can I like how they kind of focus in on that. He kind of like an animal. His senses are heightened like that, so he's able to smell differences. He's able to have incredibly fast reflexes. He can gauge distance, so he doesn't hurt anyone. So he is that quick. So, yeah, I know. And this one, at least they showed that. Yeah. At least they showed that, which is what I appreciate because of that ability he has. Yeah. So he's able to tell, you're not Storm.
Yeah. So. And I like how they try faking it out. When he does stab her, her eyes go white instead of yellow. Yeah. And then go yellow, and it's like, you're not part of the group. Then it goes yellow, and it's like, perfect.
Yeah. So, and again, the final, basically the finals. This is when Storm's able to really let.
She's cutting loose.
Yeah, she's cutting loose and holding Toad back. I'm not letting you get anywhere near me, because Toad's why won't you die?
Yeah, don't you people ever die?
Right? So, so basically, again.
Oh yeah.
Again, what would have stood out would have been I would love to see this fight.
Really, I know, right? What the fuck am I even seeing here?
Yeah. Well, this here is Sabretooth and Wolverine fighting, and I only know that because I rewatched this movie today. But otherwise, if I would seen this clip here, I could not tell.
Right.
Again, one of the biggest gripes I have with this movie is the costume choices.
Yeah.
Because
like,
this would have been nice to see Sabretooth and
Mhm.
Wolverine fighting on the top of the Statue of Liberty.
hmm
So, I mean, I love Batman, but it might as well be Batman with how dark it is.
Yeah, it's Batman, or it's what do they call that amalgamation of Batman and Wolverine?
Yeah.
Because I seen that in a comic too, where they were combined, the amalgam or the amalgam comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a decent fight, but it's like, fuck, man.
Yeah, like, it's like can't really see much of anything, but then like, like
Yeah.
Magneto touches Rogue because again, he knows he's found out that her abilities, like, she absorbs mutant powers, so he touches her, so she absorbs his energy.
Yep, he gives
He's
her
used-
basically a super
Yeah.
a super dose of it.
And he uses to use her to power the machine, basically.
Yep.
And I love
I
when he
love
takes his like tags back. These are mine.
Yeah.
Because like
These are
Sabretooth took his
mine.
dog tags. Getting again. Oh, this would be nice. Would have been
Yeah,
a
I
nice
know,
shot
right?
in the yellow.
Yeah. It's
Because
like,
he does the
jeez,
Wolverine
man.
leap here.
Yep.
See? I'm like,
Yeah, it's like, put yellow spandex on. Or it's like, what would you prefer? Yellow spandex? Yes, we would.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would have preferred the yellow spandex.
I
Hey,
mean,
we would have preferred the yellow spandex.
yeah.
Like, I don't mind it being at night, but like again, if you're gonna do that, be comic book accurate. If you're gonna do that, be comic book accurate because that will stand out.
Yes,
You
very
know,
much. Thank you, Ryan
He's
Reynolds.
wearing a dark colored leather coat, which again I get, but at the same time, it's like better lighting and yellow spandex would have stood out. If you're gonna have the
Yeah.
fight at the end, it'd be at night.
Right. I mean, I love the marketing for this film when it was first coming out because you have that scene that's not really shown in the movie where you see
Mhm.
Wolverine bring out his claws and Sabretooth reacts. It's like, really?
So basically, this is, like I'm like, again, since like I didn't want to have the stream be too long because tomorrow I have to dedicate most of my day or time in my day to watching episode 6 of Rings of Power, which means I'll be taking notes and everything for that shit show. But like it's like I'm not exactly going to talk about everything in this fight, but needless to say, all right,
Yeah.
Toad is defeated, essentially. Sabretooth
All
is
of them are.
defeated. Well, Mystique, she's wounded,
Yeah.
and Magneto's arrested. And Magneto is put
yeah.
into a
Plastic prison.
yes, he has to be put into a plastic prison because, well, can't have him around any metal. So
Sabretooth. Yeah, I did forget that Sabretooth got blasted by Cyclops due to telekinetic keeping the mat or the visor and
Yeah.
shit. But yeah, he gets blasted off the freaking Statue of Liberty and through a boat. So it's like, yeah, fuck,
Yeah.
he's dead.
So and this, so like basically Rogue is saved. She absorbs. I hate the fact that they have her absorb Wolverine's feistiness. Basically,
Yeah,
and
that's where she keeps it,
that makes it part of her character. And I'm like, no, she was always feisty. She's a firebrand. That's her character.
yeah,
And she gets the stripe as a result, like
Yep.
in her hair, basically. Which
It's-
again,
yeah.
I'm not exactly a fan of how she gets the stripe, but at the same time, it's like it would have stood out if her hair had been actually red.
Yep.
So, in which case, it looks like it's not just a phase, Mom.
Yeah, right.
That's what it looks like. I mean, like that's what it kind of looks like to me. Like it's like if her hair had been actually red, it would have stood out.
Right.
So, again, she's the weakest part in this movie. It's just her casting and the fact that they started her as too young.
Mm-hmm.
Too young.
I mean, I put this movie at about a 7.5 out of 10, objectively, because this movie had a lot of lighting problems that are a miscast with Anna Paquin. I'm sorry, Anna Paquin, but you were a miscast. Objectively, I would put it at an 8.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of like you. I would have been a bit more generous with the objective score, 8 out of 10, because, like I said, it's like with my gripes, it is an enjoyable film. And like I said, most like what my problems are kind of stem from gripes, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but not, I would say like a 9 out of 10,
Oh, damn.
9 to 9.5 out of 10 enjoyable, like subjective wise, because it is a overall enjoyable origin story, so to speak, for like X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own story, so it doesn't, other than Logan's story, which it alludes to and then basically expands upon in the second one in terms of what happened to him and why he can't remember what happened, like when that events prior to the adamantium being grafted to a skeleton. Besides that, like that's part of the actual comic books.
Mm-hmm.
This is its own original story, so it doesn't exactly, nothing exactly gets hurt in terms of storytelling when compared to the comic books. However, it's more of the storyline in the second one is taken from a storyline in the comics, and that is Logan's story for X-Men United, and then you have the Dark Phoenix saga in Last Stand, but well, Last Stand doesn't exist in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I'm saying like, you know, it's like would have stood out, and I'm saying like, you know, I understand that some things like costumes do not exactly translate from comic books to live action, but the X-Men, Deadpool and Wolverine show that yes, it can be done, and two, it doesn't have to be bright yellow spandex. It could be a muted yellow spandex, and it still fucking work. It's still yellow. It still works.
Yeah.
So we could have still had comic book accurate comics costumes in this movie, but they decided to go with the all black because sleek. I don't know, but because of that decision making and the decision making behind the time the final fights took place, especially in the outdoors part of the fight, you can't see anything.
Yeah. It really, this movie was really done dirty with the cinematography.
Yeah. So, or something to make the costumes stand out, because again, like, you know, with them being all black and the lighting, it just didn't work.
I mean, even if you made variations of their of the suits where their colors are there, but they're different suit wise.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, I mean, it would work, you know, it would be something that stands out to actually be against the darkness, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have done that, this movie would have been leagues better. I would have given this at least an 8.5 objectively, but no, 7.5 objectively. That's without bias, folks.
Mm-hmm. And this movie ends with basically Logan leaving because he's trying to get his memory back. He's trying to like figure out what happened to him. Like, why can't he remember any events prior to his, like, you know, 15 years prior? So basically shows him leaving the school, but like, you know, same time, like he is going to come back as he leaves his dog tags with Rogue.
I'll be back for these.
And then you say Magneto in a plastic prison, basically, and like kind of like, you know, like some of the dialogue alluding back to it, like earlier dialogue between Charles Xavier and Eric Lunter, which, you know, basically works in terms of like the hope and like, why do you ask me questions you already know the answers to, sort of thing. When they're discussing it, so it shows like, yeah, again, they still disagree on the approach and dealing with humanity, but they still have respect for each other. They're playing chess, and I love the like Charles wins,
yeah,
but he doesn't say checkmate. You see Magneto knocking over the king after Charles leaves.
Yeah.
So again, with the ending of this movie, it leaves it, like, definitely leaves it open for a sequel, which is what we are getting next week. We'll be talking about X2, X-Men United, which is in this case, very much Wolverine focused, because he's trying to figure out his past in this movie, where you get the introduction of Stryker, played by Brian Cox. Very well done.
Yes.
You see other mutants within the school, like Colossus.
Yep. And Kitty Pryde. Again.
Yeah. And Kitty Pryde, played by, well, Ellen
no,
Page.
It wasn't Ellen Page in that one.
The second one, she wasn't until the third one, right? The last.
Yep, she was in the third one only. The second one was somebody that looked similar to her, but wasn't her.
Yeah. So yeah, Iceman returns, same actor. Pyro, the character returns, played by a different actor.
Jubilee. is in the second one.
Yeah.
Although or there's a deleted scene where you actually see her powers a little bit.
The only thing about Colossus, a little bit of a gripe, is like Colossus is Russian, but the actor they got to play in X2 X-Men United doesn't use a Russian accent.
I can help you instead of I can help you. Just like
yes,
give it a little bit of Russian, comrade.
Get a little bit of Russian. I mean, I'm saying it's like
again a rolling Russian accent.
A little bit of a gripe because he's not a major character.
No,
like he's not like a major character. So it's more of a gripe on my part, but at the same time, it's like Colossus is Russian, which is what they get right in the Deadpool movies, a Russian accent. So,
and I like what they did with, or I like how they actually had it comic accurate in the second one, because when he goes into his metal form, his hair is not metal.
So, but yeah, but were we talking about X2 X-Men United? I think you mean a NSYNC cameo.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
Not a Backstreet Boys cameo, an NSYNC cameo, which is what's alluded to in Deadpool and Wolverine with the opening.
Alluded?
I'm just saying. I'm like alluded to.
Yeah.
I think you mean NSYNC.
Yeah. No, Lady Gal Gadot as Deathstrike. Fuck no, that would be the worst miscast.
Yeah.
Yuriko is Japanese, man.
Mm-hmm. That shows I'm a straight man. Well, yes, it does show you're a straight man, and two shows that like I grew up listening to both of them. Technically, I was more of a Backstreet Boys girl than NSYNC, but I know the difference.
Everybody has their preferences.
Anyway, but then progress to preferring classic rock because now pop just sounds like same generic shit.
Well, that's because it is the same generic shit.
I know, but like as I got older, it's like
Queen forever.
As it progressed, I'm like,
actually,
this sounds like crap.
Yes, trailer. Or yes, Trey, you are. Yeah, indeed. We're all very proud of you.
But anyway, so thank you, chat, for hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Like, again, we didn't talk about everything that transpired in this movie because, again, we'd be here for a long time if we did. But next week, we will be discussing the sequel to the first X-Men movie, which is X2 X-Men United from, I believe, 2002.
Yep.
So, which is, I think, in comparison to the first one, better. But I still have some gripes. Yeah. Still a little bit of gripes, but in comparison to the first one, better. Yeah. Then I think it's 2002 because I thought Last Stand was
99, or no, Last Stand was 2004, I think.
Yeah, it was not because I'm saying I want to say X2 X-Men United was 2002.
Oh wait, Gigawatt I think is right. X-Men, or are you talking about X? Or Trey, are you guys talking 2003 as for X2 or X3? Last Stand was 2006. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right, but I'm saying it was basically about 2 to 3 years after. Something like it would have been started filming in 2002, was released in 2003, basically. So, yeah. But around that time, basically about 2 to 3 years in between. Each film, which is basically like how Star Wars was 3 years in between.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's because they understood that they wanted to keep them wanting more, but they had to get it, or they wanted to make sure that shit was going on and people weren't.
I was close, and I repressed this shit. So, but I was close on X2. I knew it was about a couple of years after the first one. No, but in terms of quality, it works. At least a couple of years in between. They're not like, because like when you have them like a year apart, that's quantity over quality, and it just becomes oversaturation. Whereas if you have 2 to 3 years in between, well, now you have the actual proper buildup. Like basically in terms of anticipation for the film, marketing, and so forth, to get people hyped. Oh, a sequel's coming out.
Yep. So yes, I did. I actually liked that cartoon. That was actually the introduction to X-23.
I don't remember it that. I mean, I did watch it, but I don't remember it that well. I primarily, like I said, grew up on the original X-Men animated series.
Same here.
So I'm all about like the OG storytelling when it comes to like at least the animated iterations of the X-Men.
Yep. X-23 was actually, or much like, or X-23 and Harley Quinn both are very similar because they both got their origin from a cartoon instead of a comic.
Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, again, Chad, thank you. I'd have to go back and rewatch this. I think Evolution showed Wolverine and Captain America saving Magneto during World War II, which like would have been a good.
Actually, I think that was the original cartoon because I remember seeing Wolverine and Captain America in the original X-Men cartoon.
So could have been part of the original too. I had to go back and rewatch the animated series because I watched it when it came out. I watched Spider-Man, Batman, Fantastic Four, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, basically whatever was on, I watched. So,
All
anyway,
right, tomorrow, folks, is Singles 8:30 p.m. on my X account, Orange Hat 2185.
All right, and that is the Wolverine.
Yep, the unrated version. Yeah, because it gives a little bit more, you know.
I know.
We get it, Mara.
Cool.
You're cool.
Yeah, cool. Yes. So, but anyway, yeah. So, and Friday, don't know what I'm playing. Might be Squirrel with the Gun, just because since I didn't stream Monday or Tuesday, I figured maybe just play Squirrel with the Gun and then go back to like BioShock 2 remastered and Resident Evil 7 and so forth the following week. But because I have the game Squirrel with the Gun. Saturday will be. I'm gonna try to get a spoiler review out for episode 6 of Rings of Power. If anything at all is remotely worth talking about in the spoiler review before I do a live stream the following Saturday, breaking down the entire episode of what happens. Should be out earlier, hopefully. Like I said, if there's anything worth talking about, if it's boring like episode 5, I might not even do one because it's like if there was nothing to talk about from episode 5. It was like that fucking boring. And then Sunday, Talk Nerdy to Us should be on my Nerdy Homes channel. I'll remind her of that. Don't worry, chat, because I'll be gone part of the afternoon at a Renaissance festival. So I'll be out during the day Sunday. So no, if I have time, maybe do a watch party when I get back. Since I won't be playing D&D, maybe I'll do a watch party. Yeah. Maybe do a watch party Sunday if I get back early enough because I'm not playing D&D. But otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, the next watch party will be probably Bad Blood. For the wrestling event, basically, at 6 p.m. Eastern, October 5th. But we'll see. Anyway, chat again. Have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world, and we will see you all tomorrow for the Wolverine. Peace.
Later.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.